I'm Samantha Mitchell, 28, standing frozen at our family reunion as water drips from my $3,000 MacBook Pro. My brother Justin, 32, holds the soaking laptop with an awkward smile. "Oh, sorry, I accidentally dropped your laptop in the pool," he says with a shrug. 3 years of freelance design work, my entire portfolio, and the project due Monday, all destroyed in seconds. The worst part? The look in his eyes tells me this was no accident. If you're watching this, let me know where you're from in the comments and hit that subscribe button to see how I handled this devastating betrayal from my own brother. Growing up with Justin was like living in constant competition. From the beginning, our relationship was defined by rivalry rather than the sibling bond most brothers and sisters share. Justin was 4 years older, naturally athletic, and seemingly effortless in his academic achievements. I was the creative one, always drawing, designing, and thinking outside the box. Qualities my traditional parents never quite understood or valued the same way. Our family dynamics reinforced this divide. My father, Thomas Mitchell, was a corporate accountant who valued stability and conventional success. My mother, Diane, though more nurturing, ultimately deferred to my father's opinions on what constituted real achievement. When Justin followed my father's path into business administration, their pride was palpable. When I announced my intention to study graphic design, their concern about making a living with art became the background noise of my college years. Despite their doubts, I'd built something I was proud of. After college, I worked at a design agency for 3 years, building skills and connections before taking the leap into freelance work. The first year was brutal. Inconsistent clients, ramen noodle dinners, and doubts that echoed my parents' warnings. But slowly, I built a reputation for clean, innovative designs that blended artistic vision with commercial appeal. By my 3rd year freelancing, I had steady clients, a waiting list for new projects, and income that actually surpassed my brother's middle management salary, though I'd never point that out to my family. My MacBook Pro was the center of my business universe. It wasn't just a laptop, it was the culmination of every all-nighter, every skipped vacation, every penny saved. I'd customized it with extra RAM, expanded storage, and software that cost almost as much as the computer itself. That laptop contained everything, every client file, my entire portfolio development, and most pressingly, a complete website redesign for my biggest client, Gregory Barnes, owner of a chain of boutique hotels. The project was due in 3 days, and I was putting final touches on it during this family reunion. I hadn't backed up in over a week because I'd been traveling to get to this family gathering, a decision I would come to regret profoundly. When I arrived at the reunion, held at a luxury vacation home my parents had rented in the Catskills, I actually felt good about attending for once. Usually, family gatherings were exercises in deflecting questions about when I'd get a real job or defending my career choice. But this time, I had tangible success to share. I even brought a small portfolio of recent work, hoping to finally put to rest any doubts about my chosen path. The vacation home was stunning, a modern 6-bedroom retreat with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a lake, gourmet kitchen, and the centerpiece, a sprawling infinity pool that seemed to merge with the lake beyond. My parents had splurged on this reunion, bringing together extended family we rarely saw. Aunt Linda and Uncle Howard from Chicago, cousins Tiffany and Ryan from Seattle, and of course, Justin with his wife Miranda and their teenage daughter Lily. The first day had gone surprisingly well. I chatted with Uncle Howard about his classic car restoration hobby and designed a quick logo for his garage on my tablet, earning genuine appreciation. Cousin Ryan, always the family jokester, kept everyone laughing with stories from his job as a radio DJ. Even my mother complimented the sundress I wore, purchased with proceeds from a recent branding project. Justin had been quieter than usual, I realized in retrospect. When I mentioned landing the Barnes Hotels account, a name even my father recognized from business magazines, Justin had quickly changed the subject to his daughter's soccer achievements. Still, I thought nothing of it at the time, attributing his behavior to the natural awkwardness of family gatherings. On the second morning, I set up my workstation on a shaded table by the pool. The setting was perfect. Inspirational views, family nearby but not too close, and a gentle breeze keeping the temperature comfortable despite the summer heat. I figured I could put in a few hours of work on the Barnes project while still being present for family activities. Everyone seemed to understand and respect my temporary work setup, even my father, who remarked that at least your job is portable. Coming from him, this was high praise. If only I'd chosen a different spot, further from the water. If only I'd backed up my files before the trip. If only I'd seen the signs of Justin's jealousy brewing beneath his congratulatory smiles. But hindsight, as they say, is 20/20th, and I had no idea how drastically my life was about to change because of one seemingly careless moment. It happened during lunch. I'd been working steadily all morning, making good progress on the Barnes project. The family had gathered around the outdoor dining area, and my mother called for me to join them. Just 5 more minutes, I called back, wanting to finish the section I was working on. I saved my progress, a small mercy, and went to grab a glass of water before joining everyone. That's when it happened. From the kitchen window, I saw Justin approach my workstation. He glanced around, picked up my laptop, and seemed to examine it for a moment. I thought perhaps he was just curious about my work. Then, as if in slow motion, he walked to the edge of the pool with my laptop still in hand. I burst through the patio doors, but it was too late. Whether he tripped or stepped, to this day I'm not entirely sure, Justin and my laptop went into the water. The splash wasn't large, but the impact was catastrophic. I reached the pool's edge just as Justin surfaced, my MacBook Pro in his hand, water streaming from its keyboard and ports. "Oh, sorry. I accidentally dropped your laptop in the pool," he said, his expression somewhere between embarrassment and something else I couldn't quite identify. Time seemed to stop as he handed me the dripping device, water pooling at my feet. "What were you doing with it?" I managed to ask, my voice barely above a whisper as shock set in. "I just wanted to see what you were working on," he replied with a shrug. "It was an accident, Sam. These things happen." The family gathered around, drawn by my cry of dismay. My father assessed the situation with practiced detachment. "Well, these electronic devices aren't meant to last forever anyway. You'll need to get a new one." "It's not just the laptop," I tried to explain, my voice rising with panic. "Everything is on there. All my client files, my portfolio, the Barnes project that's due in 3 days." I was frantically trying to dry the laptop with napkins from the lunch table, knowing it was futile but unable to stop myself. Justin climbed out of the pool, his clothes dripping. "Look," I said, "I'm sorry. I'll help you buy a new one if that's what you're worried about." "You don't understand," I said, tears threatening. "It's not about the money. I can't replace the work." My mother put her arm around Justin. "He said it was an accident, Samantha. There's no need to make such a scene." The family quickly divided. My parents and Aunt Linda clustered around Justin, offering him dry clothes and sympathy for his mishap. Uncle Howard and Cousin Ryan helped me gather my things and suggested rice might save the laptop, an old remedy I knew wouldn't help with this level of water damage. Justin's wife Miranda hung back, an unreadable expression on her face. Their daughter Lily looked genuinely distressed, perhaps the only one who seemed to grasp the magnitude of what had happened. I spent the next 2 hours trying everything to save the laptop: rice, gentle heating, positioning to drain water. All while researching data recovery options on my phone. The outlook was grim. Water damage, especially from chlorinated pool water, was among the worst things that could happen to a laptop. By dinner time, I had accepted the device was dead. I sat alone in my assigned bedroom, surrounded by the useless laptop components, trying to inventory what I had lost and what I might be able to recreate. The Barnes project was partially saved, my last manual save that morning, but existed only on the dead laptop. My portfolio would need to be entirely rebuilt from final files sent to clients, assuming they still had them. Years of in-progress work, templates, and personal projects were simply gone. A soft knock at the door revealed Cousin Ryan with a plate of food. "Thought you might be hungry," he said, setting it down beside me. "That was really messed up what happened." "Was it though?" I asked, voicing the suspicion growing in me. An accident, I mean. Ryan hesitated. I don't want to cause more family drama, but Justin was acting weird all morning. I saw him watching you work with this strange look on his face. After Ryan left, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, tears flowing freely now. This wasn't just about losing work, it was about family betrayal. If Justin had deliberately sabotaged me, but no, surely my own brother wouldn't do that. We were competitive, yes, but this crossed a line I couldn't imagine even Justin stepping over. Sleep eluded me as I cycled through denial, grief, and finally, a simmering anger that would propel me into the next day's confrontation. Morning arrived after a fitful night's sleep. I had maybe 2 hours of actual rest, the remainder spent mentally cataloging everything lost and drafting apologetic emails to clients I'd have to send later. I showered and dressed mechanically, dreading facing the family, but knowing I couldn't hide in my room forever. As I approached the kitchen, voices drifted down the hallway. I slowed my pace, hearing my name mentioned. Samantha's always been dramatic, my mother was saying. Remember when she thought her art teacher was sabotaging her college application portfolio? To be fair, came Miranda's voice, surprisingly defensive. Losing all her work is pretty devastating. I'd be upset too. Justin feels terrible, my father replied. But accidents happen. She's making him feel worse by overreacting. I entered the kitchen, and the conversation halted abruptly. My mother busied herself with coffee. My father nodded a curt good morning before returning to his newspaper. Miranda at least had the grace to look uncomfortable. Justin was sitting at the island counter, scrolling through his phone. He glanced up as I entered, but quickly returned to his screen. I poured myself coffee in silence, the weight of unspoken words making the air heavy. Finally, I couldn't stand it anymore. We need to talk about what happened, I said to Justin, keeping my voice as level as possible. He sighed dramatically. I've already apologized, Sam. What more do you want? I want to understand why you had my laptop by the pool in the first place. My parents exchanged looks. My father set down his newspaper. Samantha, your brother said it was an accident. Let's not ruin the reunion by dwelling on it. No, I said firmly. I want to hear from Justin. Justin stood up, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. Fine. You want the truth? I was looking at your work because I was curious how you're suddenly making more money than me with your little drawings. The kitchen fell silent. My mother's coffee cup stopped midway to her lips. So you admit you took it deliberately? I asked, heart pounding. I didn't mean to drop it, he said, but his eyes slid away from mine. But yes, I took it to look. And maybe I wasn't as careful as I should have been. The admission unlocked a flood of memories. My paintings mysteriously splashed with water before a high school art show. My college application portfolio found with pages stuck together the night before submission. My first graphic tablet suddenly malfunctioning during a crucial freelance job interview I'd done from our parents' house. This isn't the first time, is it? I said, the realization washing over me. You've been sabotaging my work for years. That's ridiculous, Justin scoffed, but his face flushed. No, it's not, I continued, the pieces falling into place. Whenever I'm about to succeed at something, especially something creative, something happens to set me back. But only when you're around. You've always been so paranoid, Justin said, but his defense lacked conviction. Because I've always had reason to be. My art show paintings, my college portfolio, my first tablet, and now my entire career. My father stood up. That's enough, Samantha. You're accusing your brother of deliberately hurting you over decades. Do you realize how that sounds? It sounds like someone finally connecting the dots, I shot back. Justin slammed his hand on the counter. You always do this. Turn yourself into the victim when things don't go your way. You've been doing it since we were kids. And you've been sabotaging me since we were kids. What's the matter, Justin? Can't stand that your artsy little sister might actually be successful at something. Successful, he laughed, but there was no humor in it. You live in a tiny apartment and draw pictures for a living. Meanwhile, I have actual responsibilities. A mortgage, a family to support, a real career with people counting on me. A real career you're struggling in, Miranda interjected quietly. Justin turned to her, betrayal written across his face. "What are you doing?" Miranda looked between us, then sighed. "I'm sorry, Justin, but this has gone on long enough." She turned to me. Justin was passed over for promotion again last month. They're talking about restructuring his department. He might be out of a job soon. The kitchen fell silent again. My parents looked shocked. Clearly this was news to them as well. "So that's it," I said softly. "You're failing while I'm succeeding, and you just couldn't handle it. You have no idea the pressure I'm under." Justin shouted. "Dad's golden boy, the one who did everything right, followed the proper career path, and now I'm about to be unemployed while you're landing major clients with your doodles. Those doodles paid for that laptop you destroyed." I shot back. "Those doodles built a business that's supporting me quite well. Thank you very much." "Enough," my father thundered. "Both of you, stop this immediately. Justin made a mistake. Samantha, you need to accept his apology and move on." I stared at my father in disbelief. "Are you serious?" He just admitted it wasn't entirely an accident, that he's been sabotaging me for years, and you're still defending him. "He's under a lot of stress," my mother offered weakly. "And I'm not? I just lost my entire business in one moment because of him." I looked around the kitchen, at my father's stern disapproval, my mother's uncomfortable avoidance, Justin's mix of defiance and shame, and made a decision. "I can't do this anymore," I said quietly. "I'm leaving." "Don't be ridiculous," my father started, but I was already heading back to my room. I packed quickly, throwing clothes haphazardly into my suitcase, securing my dead laptop in its case on the slim chance a data recovery specialist could work miracles. As I zipped the suitcase, there was a soft knock at the door. It was Miranda. "I'm sorry," she said simply. "What Justin did was wrong." "Why didn't you tell me he was having career troubles?" I asked. "He made me promise not to. His pride." She trailed off. "He's always measured himself against you, you know. All these years, competing with you in his mind." "We weren't even in the same fields," I said, bewildered. "It was never about the field. It was about your freedom. You chose your path despite your parents' disapproval. Justin chose the path of least resistance, and now he's paying for it." She hesitated. "It doesn't excuse what he did." "Nothing could. But I thought you should understand." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. Understanding the why didn't lessen the hurt or solve my very real, very immediate problems. Within 30 minutes, I had loaded my car and was driving away from the reunion, tears blurring the road ahead, wondering how family could cut so deep and how I would rebuild everything I had lost. I made it about 20 miles before I had to pull over. The parking lot of a roadside motel became the setting for my complete breakdown. Sitting in my car, surrounded by hastily packed bags and a useless laptop, I finally let the full weight of the situation crash over me. Sobs racked my body as I gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white, gasping for breath between waves of grief and panic. This wasn't just about lost files or even a destroyed computer. This was about a lifetime of undermining, of having my accomplishments diminished, of fighting for recognition and respect only to have it literally dunked underwater by my own brother. When the crying jag finally subsided, I was left hollow and exhausted, but with a strange clarity. I needed a plan. First things first, my clients. With shaking hands, I pulled out my phone and started making the hardest professional calls of my life. "Mr. Barnes, this is Samantha Mitchell," I said when my biggest client answered. "I'm calling because there's been an incident with your project." His response was about what I expected, initial concern turning to barely concealed frustration as I explained the situation without throwing my family under the bus. "So you're telling me the website won't be ready by Monday?" he clarified, his voice cooling several degrees. "I'm going to do everything in my power to deliver," I promised, though I had no idea how I'd make good on those words. I had saved that morning, so not everything is lost. "If you could just give me a few extra days, Dash." "Samantha," he interrupted, "this launch is coordinated with a major promotional campaign. The deadline isn't flexible." There was a pause. "If you can't deliver by Monday, I'll need to engage another designer to finish the project." The call ended with a tentative extension until Tuesday morning, barely 24 additional hours, and the clear understanding that failure to deliver would mean losing not just this project, but the entire Barnes Hotel's account, which represented nearly 40% of my annual income. Similar conversations with other clients followed. Some were understanding, others less so. By the time I finished the last call, I had a clear picture of what was at stake. If I couldn't recover or recreate the lost work quickly, my freelance business would take a hit it might not recover from. With renewed determination fueled by desperation, I checked into the roadside motel. The room was basic but clean, with decent Wi-Fi, my new office for the foreseeable future. I searched for the nearest tech services and found Marcus Wilson's data recovery solutions about 40 minutes away. A phone call confirmed he could see me immediately. Marcus's shop was sandwiched between a laundromat and a taco stand in a strip mall. The man himself defied my expectations, not the grizzled tech nerd I'd imagined, but a sharp-eyed professional in his 30s who immediately grasped the severity of my situation. "Pool water is challenging," he said, examining my laptop. "The chlorine is corrosive to the components." He looked up at me, his expression serious. "I'll be straight with you. Chances are slim, and it won't be cheap. We're looking at a minimum of $2,000, and I can't guarantee results." $2,000 I didn't have, for a chance at recovery that might not work. But what choice did I have? "How long will it take?" I asked. "Best case, 48 hours. But that's just for assessment. Actual recovery, if possible, could take longer." That timeline wouldn't work for the Barnes deadline. "I need the Barnes Hotel's files by tomorrow night at the latest," I explained. Marcus hesitated. "I can prioritize searching for specific files, but it increases the risk to other data." "Do it," I said without hesitation. "Those files are the immediate priority." As I drove back to the motel, the magnitude of what I was facing fully hit me. Even if Marcus worked miracles with the Barnes files, I had lost so much more. Years of portfolio development. Templates I'd refined over time. Process documents and client history. The foundation of my business had been wiped out in a moment of jealous sabotage. My room became command central for crisis management. I sat cross-legged on the bed, surrounded by notebook paper where I listed everything I could remember about my lost projects. The Hotel Business Center became my temporary studio, its ancient desktop computer groaning under the demands of the basic design software I was able to download. As night fell, my phone rang. Alicia, my best friend since design school. "Sam? Your text sounded desperate. What's going on?" The simple question broke the dam again, and I found myself sobbing into the phone, the whole story pouring out. The laptop, Justin's admission, my parents' reaction, the client ultimatums. "That absolute jerk," Alicia fumed when I finished. "Your own brother? That's beyond competitive, that's sociopathic." Her righteous anger on my behalf was validating in a way nothing else had been. "The worst part is, my parents are still defending him," I said. "Because admitting he did this deliberately would mean admitting they've been enabling his behavior for years," Alicia pointed out. "Look, I know you're in crisis mode, but this is also a wake-up call about your family dynamics." "I can't think about that right now," I said. "I have to save my business." "And I'm going to help you," she said firmly. "I'm emailing you templates right now that might help with the Barnes project. I still have that branding guide we worked on together last year. It's not the finished version, but it's a starting point." For the first time that day, I felt a glimmer of hope. "You are literally saving my life right now. That's what friends are for." "And Sam? When this immediate crisis is over, we need to talk about how you set boundaries with your family. This can't happen again." After hanging up, I stared at the wall for a long moment. Boundaries. The concept was almost foreign when it came to my family. We operated in established patterns. My parents favored Justin. Justin undermined me. I tried harder to prove myself. Repeat. It had been our dance for as long as I could remember, and I'd never seriously considered stepping out of the routine. The night passed in a blur of work. I downloaded Alicia's templates, scoured my email for any client files I might have attached in previous communications, and began the painstaking process of reconstructing the Barnes website from memory and the few assets I could recover. The hotel business center manager took pity on me and let me stay well past closing hours, bringing me coffee as I hunched over the outdated computer. Around 3 a.m., my phone buzzed with an email from my biggest client, checking on recovery progress. Need confirmation of Tuesday delivery. I stared at the screen, fingers hovering over the keyboard. The honest answer was I don't know. The professional answer was on track. The desperate answer was please don't give up on me. In that moment, sitting in a deserted business center of a roadside motel, the weight of potential failure pressed down on me like a physical force. Everything I'd worked for, all the nights and weekends sacrificed to build my business, the pride I'd finally started to feel in my accomplishments, all of it hanging by the thinnest thread because my brother couldn't stand to see me succeed. I put my head down on the desk and allowed myself exactly 1 minute of despair. 60 seconds to feel the unfairness, the exhaustion, the hurt. Then I straightened up, rolled my neck, and got back to work. I'd rebuild from scratch if I had to. This wasn't just about saving my business anymore. It was about proving to myself that I wouldn't be broken by this betrayal. Morning arrived with harsh fluorescent light and the business center manager gently shaking me awake. I'd fallen asleep at the computer, my neck bent at an awkward angle that promised pain later. The screen showed my partial reconstruction of the Barnes website, nowhere near complete, but a framework at least. You should get some proper rest, the manager said kindly. You've been at this all night. I nodded gratefully, saved my work, and stumbled back to my room. After a hot shower that did little to ease my exhaustion, I collapsed on the bed, but found sleep impossible. My mind raced with everything still left to do, the ticking clock of the deadline, and underneath it all, the raw wound of family betrayal. Staring at the ceiling, a strange calm gradually replaced my panic. I'd been here before, not this exact situation, but similar crossroads where something I'd worked for was jeopardized. The art show in high school, the college application, the first big client interview. Each time, I'd found a way forward, often creating something better than my original work in the process. The pattern was clear now: obstacle, adaptation, growth. It was the story of my creative career and perhaps my life. Each setback had ultimately pushed me to develop new skills, approaches, and resilience. This disaster was just another chapter, albeit a particularly painful one. My phone chimed with an unknown number. Expecting another client checking in, I answered professionally despite my exhaustion. "Is this Samantha Mitchell?" a young female voice asked. "Yes, who's this?" "It's Lily, your niece." I sat up, immediately alert. "Lily? Is everything okay?" "Yes." "Well, no. I mean, I'm fine, but what Dad did to you isn't fine." Her voice was low, as if she was trying not to be overheard. "Everyone's being weird about it, like they're pretending it didn't happen or wasn't a big deal." "I appreciate you saying that," I said carefully, unsure where this conversation was going. "The thing is," Lily continued, "I might be able to help. I know about your work because, well, I follow your design blog. I want to be a designer too, but Dad and Grandpa don't take it seriously." This was news to me. I knew Lily was artistic, she'd always enjoyed drawing, but I had no idea she followed my professional work or harbored design aspirations. Anyway, she rushed on, "Last time we visited your apartment, I saw you working on your laptop, and you showed me how you back up your files to the cloud. Remember?" A faint memory surfaced, Lily asking about my workflow while I explained the importance of backups. Had I? "I checked your design blog this morning, and the login for your cloud storage is the same as your blog. It's still your cat's name and birthday, by the way. You should really use stronger passwords." My heart raced. "Lily, are you saying?" "I'm in your cloud storage right now. The last backup was from a week ago, before you came to the reunion. It doesn't have everything, but it has older versions of your projects, including something called Barnes_Hotels_V3. I nearly dropped the phone. "Lily, you are absolutely amazing." "I'm emailing you the files now," she said, a smile evident in her voice. "And Sam? I'm really sorry about what Dad did. How did you even think to check this?" I asked, still stunned by this unexpected lifeline. "Because I pay attention," she said simply. "I've been watching you build your design career for years. You're kind of my hero, actually. Tears welled in my eyes, but for the first time since the incident, they weren't tears of frustration or grief. Thank you, Lily. This means more than you know, both the files and what you just said. Don't tell Dad I helped, she added quickly. Things are tense enough already. After we hung up, I immediately checked my email. There they were, dozens of files from my cloud backup. Not the most recent versions, but infinitely better than starting from scratch. The Barnes project was there in a version from 10 days ago, missing my recent revisions, but with the core structure intact. As I downloaded the files, a realization struck me. I'd been so focused on what Justin had taken from me that I hadn't considered what might remain. Not just in backups, but in relationships, in knowledge, in the skills that couldn't be destroyed by water damage. I opened my laptop bag again, examining the water-damaged MacBook with new eyes. Even if Marcus couldn't recover the data, the experience that created those files remained intact. The skills that built my business couldn't be dropped in a pool. And apparently, I had made enough of an impression on my niece that she saw me as a role model, something I had never suspected. My phone buzzed again. Marcus from Data Recovery. Ms. Mitchell? I have mixed news. The logic board is severely corroded from the chlorine, but the solid-state drive is partially readable. I can probably recover about 60% of your data. That's fantastic, I exclaimed, knowing that combined with Lily's cloud backup, I could reconstruct most of my work. Don't celebrate yet, Marcus cautioned. The Barnes files specifically, they were in an active directory that took the worst damage. I'm still working on them, but no promises. Even this news couldn't dampen my newfound determination. Keep trying, but I've got a backup plan now too. With renewed energy, I reached out to the online design community I'd been part of for years, but rarely asked for help. I posted in professional forums explaining my situation, minus the family drama, and was overwhelmed by the response. Designers offered templates, advice for rapid rebuilding, and even assistance with specific elements. One developer I'd collaborated with previously offered to help code the rebuilt site once my designs were ready. By mid-afternoon, my motel room had transformed. The bed was covered with printouts of website sections, color swatches, and notes. My phone continuously buzzed with notifications from helpful colleagues. I'd set up a workflow between my phone, the business center computer, and a tablet Alicia had couriered over from her office. In the midst of this productive chaos, my phone rang again. My mother. I hesitated before answering, unsure if I was ready for another conversation where Justin's behavior would be minimized. But something in me had shifted, and I felt strong enough to establish the boundaries Alicia had mentioned. Hello, Mom. Samantha, she began, her voice uncharacteristically uncertain. Are you okay? We've been worried. I'm working to save my business after Justin destroyed my laptop, I said evenly. It's challenging. A long pause followed. I've been thinking about what happened, she finally said. About what you said regarding Justin's pattern of behavior. This was unexpected. And I started remembering incidents over the years. Your art show in high school. Your college portfolio. Her voice wavered. I always assumed they were accidents or that you were being dramatic. But looking back at the pattern, it's pretty clear, I finished for her. Yes, she admitted softly. Your father doesn't see it yet, but I do. And I'm sorry, Samantha. I should have protected you more. The simple acknowledgement released something in me, a tension I'd carried for so long I'd forgotten it was there. Thank you for saying that, Mom. Will you come back to the reunion? She asked. We can talk more in person. I considered the work spread around me, the deadline looming, and the emotional energy another family confrontation would require. I can't right now. I have to focus on saving what Justin tried to destroy. But maybe in a few days, when this crisis is managed, we could talk. Really talk. I'd like that, she said. And Samantha? I'm proud of you. I don't think I've said that enough about your career choice, but I am. After hanging up, I sat in silence for a moment, absorbing what had just happened. My mother had acknowledged the truth and apologized, something I'd never expected. It wasn't a complete resolution, but it was a beginning. With this unexpected emotional boost, I dove back into work with even greater determination. The Barnes website began taking shape, different from my original design in some ways, but in others, actually improved. Without the constraints of the previous version, I found myself taking creative risks I might have otherwise avoided. By evening, Marcus called with his final verdict. About 40% of my data was recoverable, including fragments of the Barnes project, but not enough to be immediately useful. Given Lily's cloud backup and my progress rebuilding, I thanked him for his efforts and asked him to focus on recovering my personal portfolio pieces instead of the client work. That night, exhausted but hopeful, I fell into a deep sleep for the first time since the incident. The crisis wasn't over, but I could see a path forward now, not just for the immediate deadline, but for redefining my relationship with my family. Sometimes it seemed you had to lose something to gain perspective on what truly mattered. After 2 more days of intensive work, fueled by coffee and determination, I had a functional version of the Barnes website ready for review. It wasn't identical to my original design. That would have been impossible, but in some ways, it was better. More streamlined, with innovative solutions born from necessity. When I emailed it to Gregory Barnes with hours to spare before the Tuesday deadline, his response was surprisingly positive, different from what we discussed, but I actually prefer this approach for the booking system. How soon can we implement? Relief washed over me. The immediate crisis was averted. My largest client was satisfied, and based on responses from others I'd contacted, my business would survive. I had lost data and would need months to fully rebuild my portfolio, but the foundation remained intact. With the professional emergency handled, I finally had mental space to address the personal one. After a long internal debate, I decided to return to the family reunion for its final day. Not for Justin's sake, but for my own closure, for my budding mentor relationship with Lily, and for the conversation my mother had begun. The drive back to the vacation house was tense, my hands gripping the steering wheel too tightly as I rehearsed what I would say. No more brushing things under the rug. No more accepting undermining behavior. No more diminishing myself to keep the peace. When I arrived, the atmosphere was subdued. My parents greeted me with obvious relief, my father awkwardly patting my shoulder in what passed for affection from him. Aunt Linda and Uncle Howard made a point of asking about my business recovery efforts, showing more interest in my work than they had in years. Cousin Ryan gave me a supportive thumbs up from across the room. Justin was noticeably absent at first. I found him alone on the back patio, staring at the pool, the scene of the crime. "We need to talk," I said, taking a seat across from him. He looked up, his expression unreadable. "I figured you'd never want to speak to me again." I considered that option, I admitted. But we're family, for better or worse. And this pattern between us needs to end. Justin nodded slightly, eyes returning to the water. "I've been talking to Miranda. And a therapist, actually. 2 sessions so far." This surprised me. Justin had always dismissed therapy as for people with real problems. "Good," I said simply. "I keep trying to understand why I did it," he continued. "The therapist says it's about insecurity and comparative success, but that sounds like psychobabble excuses. What do you think it was about?" I pressed. He was quiet for a long moment. "Jealousy," he finally said, the words seemingly difficult to push out. "You chose what you wanted and succeeded despite everyone saying you wouldn't. I chose what was expected and feel trapped. When I saw you working by the pool, so content, while I've been secretly updating my resume at night." He trailed off. "So you decided to destroy what I built." "I didn't decide," he said quickly. "It wasn't premeditated. I just saw your laptop and felt this surge of resentment. I wanted to see what you were working on that was so important, so successful. And then by the pool, I don't know if I tripped or if part of me wanted to drop it. It all happened so fast. This has been happening since we were kids, Justin. My art show. My college portfolio. My first tablet." He didn't deny it this time. "I know. I'm starting to see the pattern too. It's not who I want to be." Our conversation was interrupted by the sliding door opening. Our parents stepped onto the patio, expressions serious. "We could hear you talking," my father said. "Mind if we join you?" What followed was the most honest family conversation of my adult life. My father, who had always favored Justin, struggled visibly with the evidence of a destructive pattern he'd helped enable. My mother, who had begun her own realization process, facilitated when tensions rose. "I pushed you into business because it was safe," my father admitted to Justin. "And I discouraged your interest in design," he said to me, "for the same reason. I was wrong on both counts. And I stood by instead of standing up for you," my mother added, reaching for my hand. "We failed you both in different ways." Justin looked at me directly for the first time. "I'm sorry, Sam. Really sorry. Not just for the laptop, but for all of it. I've been competing with you our whole lives, and you didn't even know we were in a race." "I'm not accepting another empty apology," I said firmly. "Words aren't enough this time." "I know," he nodded. "I want to make actual amends. I've arranged to cover the data recovery costs. And Miranda and I want to contribute toward a new laptop, the best model, with all the upgrades." "That's a start," I acknowledged. "But what I really need is for this pattern to end. Completely. I need to know my work is safe around you, that I don't have to guard against sabotage from my own brother." "I'm working on it," he promised. "The therapy is just the beginning. I need to fix what's making me so insecure in the first place." Our parents watched this exchange with a mixture of sadness and hope. "We should have addressed this years ago," my father said. "I think perhaps we all could benefit from some family counseling." Coming from my therapy-averse father, this was nothing short of revolutionary. The conversation continued into the evening, painful at times but necessary. Old hurts were acknowledged. Patterns were named. Boundaries were established. It wasn't a complete resolution. Decades of family dynamics couldn't be untangled in one day, but it was a beginning. Later, Lily found me by the pool, sitting with my feet in the water in a small act of reclamation. "Did you and Dad work things out?" she asked, joining me. "We've started to," I said. "It's going to take time." She nodded wisely. "He told me I want to be a designer. He said he won't stand in my way." I smiled at her. Those files you recovered saved my business. You've got good instincts already." Her face lit up. "Really? Because I was thinking, maybe you could mentor me? Teach me what you know about design." Looking at my niece's hopeful expression, I felt a circle closing. The sabotage that had threatened my business had revealed a new path forward, not just for my professional recovery, but for passing on what I'd learned. "I'd be honored," I told her. "We can start with strengthening your cloud backup passwords." She laughed, splashing water playfully. "Deal." As the reunion drew to a close, something had shifted in our family. The old patterns had been disrupted, perhaps permanently. My parents helped me pack my car, my mother hugging me longer than usual. Justin and I reached a fragile truce, with clear expectations for how he would make amends over time. The Barnes website launched successfully the following week. The client was so pleased with the redesign born from crisis that he referred me to 2 other businesses in his network. The data recovery specialist managed to salvage most of my portfolio pieces eventually. And Lily and I began weekly design mentoring sessions via video chat. 6 months later, looking back on what had seemed like a catastrophe, I could see how that moment by the pool had become a turning point rather than an ending. The laptop was replaceable. The work was rebuildable. But the honest confrontation and resolution that followed might never have happened without the crisis that forced it. Sometimes losing everything temporarily helps you gain perspective permanently. 6 months after the laptop incident, as it came to be known in family shorthand, I stood in a crowded gallery space in downtown Manhattan, watching as people admired the digital art installation that had emerged from the ashes of that disaster. The Barnes Hotel's website redesign, with its innovative user experience approach born of necessity, had been nominated for and won a prestigious design award. Gregory Barnes himself had encouraged me to submit it, writing a glowing recommendation about creativity under extreme pressure. The irony wasn't lost on me. The project that almost ended my freelance career had instead elevated it to new heights. I now had a waiting list of clients, had hired 2 part-time assistants, and was contemplating opening a small design studio. But the professional success, gratifying as it was, paled in comparison to the personal growth of these past months. Justin had kept his word about making amends. Beyond the financial compensation for my damaged equipment and data recovery costs, he had committed to weekly therapy sessions to address his competitive issues and the insecurity beneath them. Our relationship remained a work in progress, but for the first time since childhood, we were relating as allies rather than rivals. "I never realized how much energy I wasted comparing myself to you," he told me during a recent family dinner. "The therapist helped me see I've been running someone else's race my whole life." That dinner had been one of many as our family tentatively rebuilt connections on healthier ground. My parents had surprised everyone by not only supporting the family therapy suggestion, but embracing it wholeheartedly. My father, especially, seemed relieved to finally examine the rigid expectations he'd placed on both his children. "I pushed Justin toward business because it was what my father expected of me," he admitted during one particularly breakthrough session. "And I discouraged your creative pursuits for the same reason." My father saw art as frivolous, so I inherited that view without questioning it. Understanding the generational patterns didn't instantly heal all wounds, but it provided context that helped us move forward. My mother had become an unexpected ally, often calling just to ask about my current projects with genuine interest. Perhaps the most meaningful development was my mentorship of Lily. What began as casual design tutorials had evolved into a structured program where she was developing real skills and confidence. Justin, to his credit, had fully supported this connection, even purchasing professional design software for her last birthday. "She talks about you constantly," Miranda told me. "You've given her permission to take her talents seriously." Today, Lily stood beside me at the gallery, beaming with pride as she explained to attendees how she had helped recover the cloud backup files that saved the Barnes project. "My aunt taught me the importance of multiple backup systems," she informed a bemused gallery patron. "Now I have 3 different cloud backups plus an external drive for my own design work." I smiled, recognizing my own hard-won wisdom in her precautions. "She's already more organized than I was at twice her age," I told the patron. The exhibition represented more than professional validation. It symbolized the resilience that had emerged from that painful family confrontation. Each piece in the show contained elements recovered from my damaged laptop, transformed and integrated into new works that were stronger and more innovative than what had been lost. The centerpiece was a digital installation titled Submersion, a series of images that appeared to be underwater, gradually clearing and emerging into striking clarity. The metaphor wasn't subtle, but it was honest. As the evening wound down, I found myself standing by the installation with Justin, who had flown in specifically for the opening. "It's remarkable," he said, watching the images transform. "You took something I destroyed and made it into art." "That's what designers do," I replied. "We solve problems creatively. Sometimes the biggest obstacles lead to the best solutions." He nodded thoughtfully. "I've been thinking about that a lot lately, about how to apply that principle to my own life." Justin had recently taken a bold step, leaving his corporate position to start a small business consulting firm. It was risky but aligned more authentically with his strengths and interests. For the first time in years, he spoke about his work with genuine enthusiasm rather than resignation. "I have something for you," he said, handing me a small wrapped package. Inside was a custom thumb drive in the shape of a swimming pool, complete with a tiny diving board. Despite everything, I laughed. "Too soon?" he asked, a tentative smile forming. "Actually, it's perfect," I said. A reminder of how far we've come. And we had come far. The journey from that devastating moment by the pool to this gallery opening hadn't been easy or straightforward. There had been setbacks, tense family gatherings where old patterns threatened to reemerge, moments of doubt about whether true change was possible, late-night questioning of whether forgiveness was deserved. But I had discovered something valuable through it all. Boundaries weren't walls, but foundations. By clearly defining what was acceptable in our family relationships, by requiring accountability rather than accepting hollow apologies, I had created space for authentic connection to grow. My business practices reflected this lesson as well. I now had meticulous backup systems, clear client contracts with contingency clauses, and a work-life balance that prevented the kind of all-or-nothing crisis the laptop incident had created. I had turned a painful lesson into professional wisdom. As the gallery began to empty, my parents approached, my father uncharacteristically emotional as he surveyed the exhibition. "I always thought success looked a certain way," he said quietly. "I never imagined this. Never imagined you could build something so meaningful from your art." Coming from him, this was profound recognition. Later that night, after the celebration dinner, I returned to my apartment and sat at my desk, running my fingers over my new laptop, the replacement Justin had helped purchase. I opened my design blog and began typing a post I had been contemplating for weeks. 6 months ago, I lost everything when my laptop was dropped in a pool. What followed was a journey through loss, betrayal, forgiveness, and ultimately, growth. I've received many messages asking how I recovered professionally from such a devastating setback. But the real story isn't about data recovery or emergency client management, though I'll share those practical tips too. It's about how sometimes losing what seems most important helps you discover what truly is. I paused, reflecting on the transformation these months had brought. The laptop incident, painful as it was, had forced a long-overdue confrontation with destructive family patterns. It had revealed Lily's admiration and interest in design, creating a mentorship opportunity that brought me unexpected joy. It had even, ironically, elevated my design career through the innovative solutions born of necessity. None of these positive outcomes excused Justin's actions that day by the pool. But I had learned that healing didn't require perfection. Just honesty, accountability, and the courage to break harmful patterns. I finished the blog post with the same words I had shared with Justin at the gallery. Sometimes the biggest obstacles lead to the best solutions. In design and in life, resilience isn't about avoiding disruption, but about how you transform and grow through it. As I closed my laptop, safely away from any water, I felt a sense of completion. The circle that began with that devastating moment by the pool had closed, not by returning to where it started, but by spiraling upward to a new beginning. Have you ever experienced a betrayal that ultimately led to unexpected growth? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video if you found value in my journey, subscribe for more real-life stories about overcoming challenges, and share with someone who might be struggling with family conflict or professional setbacks. Thank you for watching, and remember, sometimes what feels like your breaking point can become your breakthrough moment.